My name Edmond Yakani, Executive Director of SEPO. I would like to take this opportunity to strongly condemn the occurrence of violence today in some parts of Ulang County, namely Doma, Lueth, Nyathor villages, and also the village of Chwe of Nirol County. This violence occur as a resistance of the White Army for SSPDF not to exercise the operation of the replacement of the long-staying SSPDF soldiers in Nasser County. SSPDF today use a gunship to bomb these villages that I've mentioned, which are part of Ulang County and one as a part of Nirol County. This exercise mounted to violation of the permanent ceasefire and mounted to human rights violation, but we also, in other hand, strongly condemn the act of the White Army resistance for SSPDF not to exercise their mandate of replacing the SSPDF long-staying soldiers in Nasser County. We are aware that White Army say the force that is going to operationalize the replacement of the soldiers in Nasser County is not composed of the unified forces. They believe that these forces are allies, militias of SSPDF, and their intention is to disarm them as a White Army rather than going to replace the forces of SSPDF in Nasser County. We also had an accurate information from the spokesperson of SSPDF official that this particular exercise is intending to replace the force of SSPDF which have overstayed in Nasser County without any intention of disarmament of anybody. So the breakdown in communication or the misinformation that have led to these devolving, growing tensions between SSPDF and the White Army need to be corrected immediately. And we are urging the leadership of the country to provide an instruction for stoppage of the violence, both from the SSPDF leadership and also from the White Army leadership, that the violence must stop, the confrontation must stop, dialogue must be used for mitigating grievances that they have towards each other. But also I would like to remind the commanders on the ground, whether of SSPDF of White Army, that the country is still under the spirit of the R-Access. Chapter 5 of R-Access is still active. We will document actions that may mount to human rights violations, and some of you, whether from SPDF or White Army, will one day answer questions in front of the three mechanisms of the Chapter 5, which will soon be operationalized. Therefore, I'm calling with respect that the leadership of SSPDF and White Army should embrace a dialogue. It's very important for the country to have a dialogue. But also we are aware that the development in Melakal, if it's not properly handled and timely handled, it may trigger the country return to violence, which contradicts the position of the leadership of the country that always under the leadership the country will not return to violence. But we have seen a development of high strong indicators that the country may return to violence as we see the development that is negative in Upper Nile state, specifically around Ulang County and Nirol County now. This also following the developments in some parts of Western Equatorial State, in some parts of Western Bargazal, and the link between Unity and Warab State. All these incidents may lead the country to return to violence. It's essential that the leaders of the country need to stop this newly developed military confrontation between SSPDF and IO, and then SSPDF and armed civilian population like the White Army. All these acts mounted to violation of the permanent ceasefire and undermining of the cessation of hostility. As a civil society leader, we are calling for the parties which have grievances towards each other across the country to abstain from violence and embrace dialogue for mitigating their differences. All this action one day will be accounted for. We are watching, we are documenting. You better abstain from perpetuating any violence that may lead to human rights violations. Thank you very much. My name Edmond Yakani, Executive Director of SEPO. I would like to take this opportunity with high respect to raise a concern for attention of every South Sudanese, wherever you are, at whatever capacity you are. We have seen recently a growing negative culture, a culture where some individuals among us across the globe in South Sudan, outside South Sudan, are effectively engaged in perpetuating a culture of hate speech, hostile propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation that is leading our communities that have misunderstanding among themselves to engage in a deadly violence. We are all aware as South Sudanese that if you talk of any history of any occurred genocide, normally you'll come to realize that once public and key informers of society are engaged effectively in triggering factors of hate speech, of hostile propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation, chances of occurrence of a deadly violence among conflicting communities or communities with the friction is very high. And Rwandan genocide is a case study in front of us compared to other also genocides that has happened across the globe. Therefore, as a civil society activist, with respect and honor, I would like to appeal to South Sudanese that we should abstain ourselves from the use of hate speech, hostile propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation. From the 1st of February until the day of today, we have registered more than 5 deadly incidents that are fueled by the use of hate speech, hostile propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation across the country. And we feel as this transitional period, it is a transitional period that is informed with the potential occurrence, or we are going to hold a national general election, which is a political competitive exercise. The political competition may likely promote this culture or widen this culture of hate speech, hostile propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation. We are a bit disturbed that the beginning of this newly extended transitional period have started violently with a high rate of hate speech, misinformation, disinformation, hostile propaganda that have also led to deadly incidents. If we see almost the last 2 weeks, the country is witnessing deadly incidents across the country, either due to politically motivated violence or violence that associated with cattle raiding, or violence of boundary disputes, or violence that have link with individuals who are competing over political influence within their constituencies, either one party members or among members of different parties. We are appealing, let us all take responsibility to abstain from the use of hate speech, hostile propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation, because these are seeds for potential genocide or crime against humanity to take place in our society. Thank you very much.